Hey guys, welcome back to an impressions video that I really wanted to make for a long time on a game that I love. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's my Resident Evil game of all time. So of course I'm all geared up here because we're here to talk about Resident Evil, the remake for the PlayStation 4 specifically. That's the version that I beat. It's basically the remastered version of the remake that came out for the GameCube all the way back in 2002. And as I mentioned, it's one of my favorite games of all time. And the Resident Evil games are basically one of my favorite series of all time in games. So I'm all geared up here, very excited to talk about this game because it's been a while. It's been a while since I beat the remake for Resident Evil, and now thanks to the re-release on the PS4, I was able to finally beat the game. And I'm saying finally because I started the game a couple years ago when it got released on the PlayStation 3. This is a Japanese exclusive collector's edition for the PlayStation 3 remastered version that I do have an unboxing video if you guys want to look at the contents. They're pretty cool. And then a couple years later, it came out for the PS4. And actually, the version that I beat, it's on my hard drive because I used the digital version. And as you guys can see, I love this game so much that I own it for multiple systems, and it's part of my love for the Resident Evil series, which dates all the way back to the original Resident Evil. When it came out, I would remember playing that game with my friends. It was an introduction that I'll never forget. Even though the original Resident Evil game nowadays, it may not have dated well with the pre-rendered backgrounds, the cheesy voice acting, I still have a lot of fond memories. But when in 2002, when the remake came for the GameCube, I was completely blown away. And it was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to get a GameCube. Back then, I only had the choice of getting one system, per my family and parents. I had to rely on them for the budget or my gaming choices, and I decided to go with the GameCube. At that time, even I want to say before the release of the GameCube, it was well known that that system was going to get the remake. And I remember the first time I saw the screenshots on a magazine, I was blown away. I could not believe how good the pre-rendered backgrounds looked in this game, and I was like, I want to get that. I'm going to play that on day one. And sure enough, day one, bought the game for the GameCube. Here's my original copy, and played this with friends back and forth, for a million times. From what I recall, I beat this game like 9 times from start to finish. And even though I played it back in the day, 2002, maybe the last time I beat the game was maybe like 04. So it's been, it's been a very long time, more than 10 years, definitely, for me to get back. And I did stream, parts of my gameplay through the PS4 version. And you guys can see I'm a little bit rusty in certain parts of the game, but I was surprised at how, I guess, non-rusty I was in other parts of the game. Certain puzzles, I had some issues solving some of them. Some other puzzles, memory came back really quick. So, definitely was a slow run. I think it took me like 10 hours to beat the game, which is it's not bad if you're doing that if you're playing the game for the first time. It's like kind of normal, but I did want to take my time to enjoy every second of this game. And in fact, I'm tempted to go back and get the platinum trophy after seeing our good friend here, DMP, Devil May Pie, Danny. He was posting his updates via Instagram, and that kind of lit a little bit of a fire inside me, to go get the platinum. I don't know if I'm gonna do it because I have so many games that I want to play through, but it's definitely on my to-do list. I would love to have the platinum trophy for this game because it's one of my favorite games of all time. So it'd be nice to add that to my platinum collection. And mind you, this is I want to say it's a pretty challenging platinum. There are some runs that you have to do, such as like knife only run, and you have to beat the game under 3 hours. That's another challenging one. Beat the game on the hardest difficulty, and so forth. So as far as the story, this game, it's basically where everything started, Raccoon City, in the forest of Raccoon City, basically where the mansion is. Your team gets sent there to explore, to basically rescue the other team. And so the Alpha and Bravo team are in action, there on the forest of Raccoon City. And then, of course, you get to this mansion to you run for cover, run for your life, basically, and that's when you start finding out all these crazy things that have happened. And the remake is actually a very good game in terms of bringing that story, the original story on the PlayStation 1, and kind of develop a little bit more. It goes a little bit more into detail as far as the Spencer mansion, the what some of the traps, the origin of Lisa Trevor, which was the daughter of like the actual designer and architect. So you get a little bit of a backstory on certain things that were a little bit unclear on the first Resident Evil game on the PlayStation 1. There are a lot of files that do mention certain things that, for example, I think Billy Cohen is mentioned in one of them, Resident Evil Zero, things, and things that help tie everything together a little bit better as far as the Resident Evil story. So here we have basically the story is an important component, but it's actually the historical value that I think it's important for this game. It may not be the first survival horror game, but it's definitely the game that brought the genre to the masses. Other like Alone in the Dark maybe will take the credit for being the first one, but Resident Evil definitely is the one that really brought that genre up to become one of the most popular ones. Fast forward to today, we have all of 7 Resident Evil games, mainline games, and countless spin-offs and side stories and other games that are part of the Resident Evil universe. But as far as the gameplay, that's something that I love about this game. It's classic Resident Evil, and I don't want to sound here like an elitist or a purist, but I do enjoy the classic Resident Evil tank controls, fixed camera angle. Call me old school, but those are my fondest memories of playing this game with the fixed camera angles. I think they add a ton of tension. That was one of the things that I enjoyed the most. It's a very cinematic game, especially this remake in particular one. I think the directors from Capcom took the liberty of providing some excellent, fixed camera angles in certain parts of the game that are really to show off, the newly, done, pre-rendered backgrounds, so you can see this game come to life in a more eerie way, because the atmosphere and the environments in this game, in my opinion, are the best in the series. Hence why it's my favorite game on the series, which, by the way, I did a series discussion, which I will be linking down in the description to see. This is obviously my favorite Resident Evil game, but if you're wondering where the other ones ranked, you can take a look at that video. But I think this game has the best atmosphere by far. It's the Raccoon Mansion obviously has different floors, different rooms, and of course the different sections. The courtyard, the secret lab, the underground caves, and sewer system and all that crap. I think this game just does a fantastic job of providing that very eerie and creepy atmosphere. And of course, the gameplay, tank controls, but this particular remastered version has regular controls for those of you that don't like the tank controls. Me personally, I like them. It's weird. To me, it's easier playing with tank controls than regular controls. To me, tank controls, they make a lot of sense, but don't get me wrong. Back in the day, when I first played this game, it was a challenge getting used to them. But once you get the hang of the tank controls, I think they're very straightforward. But they do provide some comedy as far as sometimes you're trying to maneuver your character and you see all these brute movements on your character models. But overall, I really like the tank controls, or it's something that I'm used to, and I couldn't play any other way, because my brain is already so ingrained with how to control these Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield using tank controls. So I don't mind them, but I do understand the frustration that a lot of new to the series gamers have. But as far as the design, that's something that, if you're playing this game for the first time, you may encounter some old school mechanics as far as backtracking, as far as getting items to progress through the next part of the games. It's a game that requires a decent amount of memorization as far as what doors you already explored. The cool thing is that the map is pretty helpful if you know how to read it. You'll know what rooms have been explored, what rooms have locked doors and things like that. So it's a matter of knowing how to read the maps and just memorizing a little bit on areas that you have been, what are the best routes to explore the mansion, because again, there's a ton of backtracking in this game, which it makes up for a fun element in my opinion. But very old school mechanics, very limited ammo and things like that. Overall, it's a challenging game. If you play it on easy, obviously the game gives you a lot of ammo and a lot of healing items. But I want to say, if you're a newcomer, even playing on easy, it may be a little bit challenging just because of the fixed camera angles, just because of the controls, and just because of the overall nature of the design of the mansion and the enemies, which hit pretty hard even on easy. I think you need to be always careful and on your toes, which is another great element of the game, being able to, that element of surprise from the enemies, from the different bosses that you encounter throughout the game, whether it's zombies. And then a new element in this remake is, you have the Crimson Head, which is basically, if you don't dispose of the zombies, they're gonna come back with a vengeance, a more powerful version of them. You have obviously the dogs, which is the Cerberus. You have the hunters, which are always very scary to confront because they can one-hit kill you. And of course you have the bosses like the Tyrant, Yawn the Snake, and the giant spider. A lot of creepy creatures that definitely come to life in a fantastic way through the remastered version of this game, which I really enjoyed all the versions. And oddly enough, if you guys are into the, I guess, historical element, highly recommend you guys play the GameCube version if you can, because the GameCube version actually has some certain elements that are missing in the PS3 and PS4 versions of the game. There are certain lighting effects that I forgot what was the exact reason, but one peculiar one is when you go like in this downstairs area in the graveyard, there's this kind of like boss enemy where you have to take the masks, and then this coffin opens and you have to fight this boss. On your way down, it was one of the most impactful lighting effects. When I was playing the GameCube version, as you go down those stairs, there's like this fire lighting as you go down with some very good looking shadows, and for some reason they were not able to replicate that on the PS4. I don't know if it's an emulation issue, or maybe it requires some kind of GameCube exclusive, I don't know, software or shading, who knows. But the GameCube version actually has certain lighting elements that are, in my opinion, very good, that are missing on the PS4 version. But of course the PS4 version is a more attainable one. This game is also out for the Xbox One for those of you that don't have consoles, and PC as well. I think it's up on Steam, so no excuse. If you guys want a good taste of old school survival horror, this is a good way to start or to explore. This is a historical game. In my opinion, it should be played by a lot of people, even though again there are some old school mechanics that a lot of people may have some problems getting adapted to them, but overall I think the design in this game is beyond the best in the series. Resident Evil 2 was a great game. There are so many other games that are great in the Resident Evil universe, but this one takes the cake in my opinion as far as the design of the mansion, the backtracking. Everything is laid out very well, and of course you have that tension element of the enemies. When are they going to come out, where, and you're always on your toes. Obviously, if you're an experienced player, you already know where all the enemies are going to come from. But playing this for the first time was an experience that I'll never forget. I got this game on day one when it first came out, and I just have the best of memories going through this game, gripping my GameCube controller, with the sweaty hands, just being very nervous. And I remember me and my brother used to play this a lot, and my friends as well. This is one game that I think it's probably the best remake of all time, as far as there's tons of remakes, especially nowadays. A lot of the old games are being remastered, redone, remade, and I think this one really takes the cake because of the excellent upgrade in graphics, the excellent upgrades in design, because this game offers more things to do over the original Resident Evil. And the historical value, there are more files, there are more cinematic sequences and things like that really help tie the story and improve the story. And of course there's an improvement in the voice acting as well, which is not perfect, but much better than the original Resident Evil game, which was a little bit of a I guess comedy thing, with the Jill sandwich and all those famous quotes. So anyways, definitely this is one of my favorite games of all time, by far my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. Tons of fun memories, and again, this is the type of game that I wouldn't mind replaying every so often, because I have the best of memories. And it's a shame, in my opinion, now that Resident Evil 2 is being remade. I was crossing my fingers, hoping that it would be a classic Resident Evil game, with the fixed camera angles. I completely understand why they decided to go against that, but I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping that they will cater towards the hardcore Resident Evil fans, but nevertheless, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 2, which is coming out, I believe, next year. So once again, Resident Evil, the remake, one of my favorite games of all time. Highly recommend that you guys try this if you haven't done so. No excuses. Available for the PS3, the Xbox One, the PS4, the GameCube, the Wii. Here I have even the Wii version. Available for PC. You call it. This game is available now in pretty much every console out there. So I would want to thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you, and I will see you all later.